Just have a go at this. Gravitational waves, lensing effect, and the bending of light. So, force, lens, creates effect on light. So, the lens exists as an entity created by force, by pure force, of the bending light. The light itself bends because of the distance of one end to the other that exists at the same time. It's supported at both ends at the same time, and therefore in that instant it's subjected to twisting force. That twisting force puts a bend in the light fibers of the ether going out to the boundary, to the cosmic microwave background, and it twists it and bends it, and that bending creates a force, because as the solid light fiber snaps, it snaps into a spiral, left-handed chirality, and therefore it's now elastic, and so it stretches a bit further, and so it has a duration and a resonance. So the initial action has a resonance, and this resonance exists as force, so that the light stays bent and we observe it and we see the gravitational wave. So the construction of the gravitational wave is of an actual lens. Picture the matrix structure. It's a huge sphere of tiny hexagons based around a framework, a dodecahedral framework of pentagons in each of the corners, and then at the top there's a 13th dodecahedron which is constructed from pure force. So there's no matter there at all, nothing exists there. It's the entry point for the dimension below to be expanded so that it's got a surface to stand on. So I'm going to convince you that this hexagonal matrix sphere can support itself through its pulsing action that occurs at the center, and so the outside is the rigid body. So Victor Leve, 1906 translation. Victor tells us that before there is a change in velocity and a change in position, when there is a collision of two rigid bodies, there is vector potential is set. So that so as the two bodies collide, the first thing that occurs, the very brush stroke of existence, the first thing that occurs is that the two vibrations meet each other, and that you can see the vibrations in vector potential. That's what Leve proves. So that vector potential exists before motion, its power. So that the power of the collision is in the sound that is about to be made. The sound is made first, and then there is a motion of temperature increase in the collision, which causes then the motion of velocity and change of position, change of momentum, change of position. And so it's vector potential doing it. So let's go and look at the gravitational waves now and see the vector potential writ large on the universal stage, stretching ahead of us as a scalar wave, so that it's a fractal growing from our perspective to the edge of to the edge of the universe in scale, and because we see it logarithmically, we see it linearly. It's a trick that mathematics plays on us in terms of our observation, because we're on a bent beam. So here's the collision. You've got the matrix. It's existing as a sphere because it's been inflated for a moment. There's water inside, and there's a skin of water on the surface. Each of those windows now of the matrix has water stretched across it as a window. Inside there is a pressure change, a pump increase, and those windows puff out. So that the pi windows puff out from the hexagonal frame, causing the flower of life at the overlap of as they grow. Can you see it? And so that's a force of negative tension being created in the matter itself. Negative tension is expansion. So here we go. So now it's a sphere. So the next motion will be the sphere will deflate. So the puff up and then the puff down, and the puffs will go inside. So that pi ratio will now be inside, which is where it should be, because the circumference of the matrix is built to a pi golden ratio pi. It's bigger, 3.414 da, but it's got a pattern to it. It's a much more beautiful pi and it's bigger. So that the natural place for the water to be is inside. The windows should be concave, but because it pumps up to be convex. Okay? So back to Leve, we've now got the sphere. Next action, deflation. Next action, pump. The flat of the point of the matrix, whichever window it's actually sitting on, will fall down and will collide with the flat surface upon which it's standing. But vector potential exists first. So because that's the one it's standing on, it has to exist as an actual entity. So it exists as a lens. And what happens is the corner that was resting is pushed off by the expansion of the water underneath it to make the lens. So, yeah, and that's where 137 arc seconds comes from. So you've got this angle of the Euler disk spinning. At the moment of rigid body instant, it lifts it. The piece of glass forms from infinitely tiny random fracturing exists in that glass, and that infinitely tiny random fracturing creates perfect clarity in the lens that's created. So it sits there as a lens at an angle. So its next motion should be to break again and go inside, but it can't because this fracturing has created voids, interstices, and aggregate, and it's just the aggregate is so tiny, interlocked so neatly in such a random pattern, can't be budged. And so that's the support. And so that the disc, the glass disc of the lens is so massive, the circumference is so huge, it actually sits between bearing numbers 16 and 32. When you look at the side angle with that corner elevated, with the lens, it's now so flat that 16 to 32 is flat on the table. But when you look at inside, look above 16 to 32, you'll see it's a pi, it's the whip. It's the crack of light at the center, crack, and then the whiplash of the axis. It's the shape that's created underneath that 16 to 32 goldfish bowl, because the goldfish bowl is rolling, you see. And so that flat surface isn't a circle, it's rolling, so it's got a center to it, center of bending. And that's the key. The center of bending at the center of the planet, the time particle, comes out here to the Earth, to the center of the planet, center of the universe, with the moon swinging around it, attached by light. And so it's that swing of momentum that creates the flat surface that the light is sitting on. And so all you've got is not flat, it's only a flat section of a pi real circle with a pi natural circle inside and a stretched pi on the outside. So that pi for us is 22 over 7. When we build pi 22 over 7 because we stretch pi to its biggest value, fixed. So we are then stretching into the center of the planet to expend it, to use that energy that's given to us for free without having to extract it as we currently do using the concrete. So Victor Leve, 1906, and his vector potential, so key, showing that power exists before anything else. And what's the shape of the power? It's the equator. So get this, as the ball should collapse, as that lens should shatter and it should fall down, there should be a note and there should be a temperature increase. And that would create a ripple in the surface of the two hemisphere models. That's two perfect hemispheres straight around the middle. The equator is going to have a ripple in it, isn't it, from the collision that should occur. And that ripple is the twist, but that twist moves and it creates a standing wave of the yin yang, the two circles, and then there's the two circles of the yin yang of the Earth and the Moon, the 6:1 ratios, and pi 22 over 7. Very simple stuff. So the twisting of the yin yang eyes creates the rotation of the yin yang body. standing wave now, so that the vector potential is the standing wave that's created at the center. It doesn't move. So the system is completely stable. Anything that moves is the Earth, Moon, and the clockwork system of the sun around us. The sun is a hemisphere, is the hemisphere around us. We see it on the two-dimensional plane as a collapse point. Earth, the center universe. Learn it now. Learn it today. Because then you prove that God exists. We can take Christ's greatest commandments and a health and safety rule, and a world can begin. Can we do that, please? Let's do it today. Come on. I think enough people have been killed. God, please follow the rebel king.